Hello and welcome back to another action-packed episode of 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me today to talk about one of my favorite games of the year, it's the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Tennessee Volunteers. It's our host, Mr. Logan Landers. How's it going, bro?
What's going on, Jeremiah? Another great Monday talking some upcoming college football games. We got an SEC matchup here between, of course, the Alabama Crimson Tide, always going to be one of the best teams in the nation, against the Tennessee Volunteers trying to get the big upset this weekend. I can't wait to talk about it.
I can't either. And I'm just going to talk some mad junk for a split second here before you get into the real depths of the stats, what's going to go on with this game to get all of our Tennessee Volunteers fans and all of our Alabama Crimson Tide fans really hyped. First off, Alabama, you guys are so awesome most of the time. Let's just say, I'm so sorry that you guys are not in the, top four, that you might not make it to the championship. You're dependent on other people to lose another game to make it to your top spot. That's got to be a hard place to be in, and I know that's got to throw you off your game, and you're not even sure if you want to come out and really fight for this one. Maybe you just are like, well, it's just Tennessee. We could just snooze past this one. We're not going to get upset like Texas A&M. That would be crazy. Two crazy upsets in 1 year. There's no way that could happen. And then so I feel like, it's very likely Alabama fans, your team knows where they stand and they know how important this, that most games are, but this is a throwaway for y'all, right? So you can just walk in, have a good day, have a few drinks, have some times with the guys, just throw some downs and just see what happens. Don't worry about a real strategy against Tennessee. Now, Tennessee Volunteers, interestingly enough, you're killing it. Like the last two games, you crushed people. I mean, beating South Carolina, huge moral win for us as a program. Josh Heupel, you're out there becoming one of the most world-class coaches in the world. And I just see Tennessee really do some big things for this game. So here's what I would love to see happen. Come out in the first half, do your thing. I don't care where the score is at. But in the second half, that Tennessee team is going to come out of the locker room with a plan and an idea that is going to revolutionize the way that Tennessee plays Alabama. And I can't wait to see it. I'm not going to predict a final score, but let's just say the Tennessee Vols going to show up, Alabama Crimson Tide going to stay asleep, and I'd love to see what really happens. So bringing us back to reality is our host, Logan Landers, who's going to give us like the real stats and what we can expect out of this game between Tennessee and Alabama. So Mr. Landers, tell us, what do both fandoms have to look forward to?
Well, like you mentioned, Jeremiah, if you're an Alabama fan, most teams that you play that aren't ranked, you just kind of throw them away and don't think too much of them because 99% of the time, Coach Saban and company come in and put in work, and they have a lot of work they've put in this year, putting up a ton of points. My goodness, just the last couple of games they've played, they've put up 49 last week, 41 the week before, 42, 63, 31. The lowest scoring game they had was 31 points. So they've had a pretty good season offensively, I would say. Now, the defense, we've talked about it here many times on the show with our defensive expert, Coach Kevin the Bull Jones, who's an Alabama fanatic, and, of course, Mr. Football Vince Turner as well. They say that this Alabama defense isn't as in their prime as previous years with past recruits and whatnot. And you can kind of see that they've allowed a few amount of points. They lost to Texas A&M. They gave up 41 points. So that's kind of their one big glaring mark there. Of course, they're only lost in the season so far. And you can see that there are a few cracks in that Alabama Crimson Tide armor. Now, of course, I'm not saying that they are a horrible team by any means. Every team's got their own Achilles heel. But I think we're just so accustomed, Jeremiah, to seeing Alabama being the quote-unquote perfect football team who rarely messes up, who always gets to that national championship game, who always puts up 40-plus points, who allows only 14 points for the opposing team. But they are dominant, of course, but they're not as just crushing the wills of the opposing teams this year, it doesn't seem like, especially on defense. And that's where I think Tennessee, if they want to win this ball game and get that major, major upset for their program and get Josh Heupel his biggest win in his head coaching career, that's where that Tennessee offense needs to come in and just firing on all cylinders. Hendon Hooker, he did not have a good end to that game last week against Ole Miss. Time was running out, and instead of throwing it in the end zone for maybe that last shot to get that lead, he ran out of bounds for who knows what reason. Who knows what's going on there, but just a bad play at the end, and that's going to be eating away at him all week. And coming into a game against Alabama, man, you got to have a clear mind, a clear head, and because this Crimson Tide team is looking to get another big win, so I expect Hooker to hopefully get everything right, get past that bad loss last week to Ole Miss. We knew it was going to be a tough game. Ole Miss is a really good team. Of course, Coach Lane Kiffin had a rough day. At Neyland, had stuff thrown at him. Just fans were not too happy to see him. I didn't think so. But you got all that out the way. The big, kind of rivalry game, your old coach coming back. You didn't like him too much. But now you got to focus on Alabama. And, people will say the best college football coach in history with Nick Saban. So you got to have Tion Evans, Velus Jones, Jeremy Banks, all the big hitters for Tennessee on offense and defense have got to come to work and be clicking on all cylinders. The offense has to be on point. And if you're a defensive team, if you're on defense, you got to get some interceptions. Jalen McCullough has to show up and get a pick or two maybe against Bryce Young. So Tennessee has to play the perfect football game if they want to win this game, because everyone's doubting them, Jeremiah. Everyone thinks Alabama's going to win this one easy, but Tennessee's going to put up a good fight, I think. Now, if you're Alabama, how can you come into this game and get an easy win and move on to LSU in November the 6th, your next big game? Well, it's pretty simple. Just pretty much do what you've done the entire season except for that A&M game, and that's put up a lot of points and a lot of really good offense. Bryce Young's thrown for over 2,000 yards already this season. He's looked good in moments. It looks like he's still trying to get the team – he's still trying to get that leadership mentality because he is really young. He's trying to get just that football experience under his belt. But whenever he looks good, you see flashes of a future NFL quarterback. He's just got to get some time to learn the system a little bit more. And we've seen it throughout the weeks of this 2021 season that he is getting better and better week in and week out. So it'll be interesting to see how he ends up at the end of the year, because so far he's looking very well. Like I said, over 2,000 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, so not too bad at all. Now, the one key is he has been sacked 15 times this season. So Tennessee, who have got a few sacks so far as a team this year, they've gotten, looks like here, let me see where it is. I lost my stats for a second. Yeah, 25 sacks. So they do have, they could maybe get in there, get some pressure on the quarterback, and put up some, maybe get an interception off of or a fumble, or just any kind of turnover like that, because they'll need a lot to beat this Alabama team. So they have 19 sacks as a team. Alabama's given up 15. So that defense needs to come to work for Tennessee. And if you're the offensive line for Alabama, you got to watch out, because Tennessee's got some really good players on that defensive end. Like I mentioned earlier, Jeremy Banks, that's their big linebacker, 4.5 sacks on the season right now. Can he get 5.5? Can he get 6.5 or 7 come after this Alabama game? You never know. But like I said, Alabama, they got Bryce Young, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Brian Robinson, the running backs, right under 600 yards so far. Jameson Williams, their top receiver, with 587 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns as well. Henry To'oTo'o, the former Volunteer, going up against his former team now. So we'll see how excited he's going to be to play against his old guys. And, of course, Jordan Battle, the leader on defense, 2 interceptions on the year. So overall, just to give a final summary for this game, if you're Tennessee, you got to be pretty much playing a perfect ball game. Coach Heupel's got to have a tremendous game plan. And I think he's going to be excited. He's going to be ready to rally these troops, play against Alabama, who's always going to be one of the top teams in the nation. If you're Coach Saban, it's just another Saturday. I think so. Just come in, do what you've done for many, many years now. This game's going to be a 7 o'clock game, so a nighttime game. You get to stay up a little bit later and watch this one. And hopefully you get to see 2 really good SEC football teams battle it out. And so for me, I think the final score, I will have Alabama maintaining their 30-point per game margin. Alabama, I got 35, and Tennessee 21. I think Tennessee will get a good bit of offense in there. I don't want this one to be a blowout, of course. I want Tennessee to go in and put up a good fight. So that's what I think the final score will be. For Tennessee, it's been a pretty solid season. You've improved. It's been a few tough losses. They're 4-3 on the moment. So, I mean, the scheduling will get much better for them either, Jeremiah, because they face Kentucky next week. They're the number 15th ranked team in the country. Yep. And then Saturday, November the 13th, they face at the time, the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. So it's going to be a tough stretch for Tennessee. How can Coach Heupel and and Hendon Hooker and company, how can they get through this tough stretch? How many games will they win throughout these next few games? We'll see, but this is just the start, and it's a really good tune-up game for Kentucky next week. So we'll see what the Volunteers can do.
I absolutely agree. Now, what I'd love to see, of course, is Tennessee putting some points on the board. Like you said, if we get 21 points, I'm going to be so excited. If we squeak this one because of mistakes that Alabama makes, because of genius plays that Josh Heupel puts in on the field, and because of the great team that we put together, what has an amazing heart, I would love to see that. And in my own fantasy football world, if we beat Alabama, we come into Kentucky with momentum that could potentially put us, really on the field with them. Kentucky is no team to miss right now, but if we do come in from an Alabama win, that's a huge, huge advantage to coming in, mentally and physically being ready for that. The Georgia game's going to be hard. We're broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia, and I can tell you the Georgia Bulldogs are everything. They've got it. They've got the offense. They've got the defense. They've got the coaches. They've got the fans. They got the fandom. Like, they got pieces in place. So it's going to be an incredibly challenging game for any players, any team to come into. So let's just get past this one. That Ole Miss loss last time was a real squeaker, and it was frustrating. It was extremely frustrating. I'm sure that everybody at Neyland clearly was very frustrated by the amount of things they threw on the field. And it was an interesting time to have Lane Kiffin back, too. So we're coming off a very, passionate fan base right now. So we want to see things go really well for us. In that case, though, Alabama, of course, you're going to continue your relative dominance, in college football. Again, they've got their own challenges that they've not quite been able to meet yet. And given the way the college football system works, an amazing team that's at the top of their game can lose one game and it can send everything tumbling for them. So that is a huge bunch of pressure under there. So Alabama, I'm sorry you got all that pressure on you. Sorry you got to be the best team, in the nation most years. Tennessee, this is just no pressure game for you. Come in here and play fundamental football. Try to get another inch, try to get another foot, try to get another yard on this team, and just see if you can get that edge, that makes all the difference. So for everybody watching on YouTube, Twitch, or on Facebook, thank you so much. What do you think the final score will be? Put it in the comments. Let us know what you think. Make sure to like, subscribe to our video, and then go over and listen to our podcast where we talk about this even more. And if you're not listening to our podcast yet, grab your phone, open up your Spotify app, which is what we like to do, or open up your Apple podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever that you listen to podcasts. Type in 100 yards of football, and you will get this exact image you're looking for here. Our football on the 50-yard line. We're sponsored by the Believe Podcast Network, and we bring you podcasts pretty much every day, all week long. You can listen to us in the morning before you're heading into work. You can listen to us on your way to work. You can listen to us at work at your office, or if you work from home around the house. And then when you're driving home, you can listen to us with all new episodes and great classic episodes with legendary interviews from the legendary players and amazing recap episodes of incredible games that were played 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They give you amazing context on where we've come from in the history of football. And our entire team, including Vincent Mr. Football Turner, our founder from over 10 years ago, where he started the show over on AM Radio, and 12-time NFL great, first-round draft pick in the 1981 draft in the first round, Mr. Bobby Butler. He stays with us and does incredible Legends interviews. And finally, our coaching expert, Kevin the Bull Jones. Just incredible, dude. Like, we are really blessed and thankful to have such an incredible team, including our host, Mr. Logan Landers, who brings us incredible breakdowns every single week. and I just could not be happier with it. So if you missed earlier part of our episode, go back and watch it or listen to our podcast. And we're about to come back with another live episode here in just a moment. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long. You're watching 100 Yards of Football. Stay tuned. We'll